Cool.
All right, so it should pop up live here in a second. And then what we'll do is we'll just let it sit for a minute so people can see the alert coming in, the notification on their group, and then we can start.
Sounds good. Oh yeah, I see that live on Facebook. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, we got to get you doing more lives. Okay, cool. All right, cool. People are starting to join now, so we'll just let them filter in through there. And yeah, again, thank you, man, for taking the time out of your day to chat with us and the other PitchGrounders. Really appreciate it.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
So you an avid rock climber then?
Yeah. I've been getting super into it, just like going almost every single day.
Nice. How long you been doing that for?
7 months now, 7-8 months.
Okay, for a while then.
Yeah, for almost a year now. I think it's like a newish hobby, but I think I've made like pretty good headway for how long I've been doing it. So
right on. Hey guys, for everybody that's just joining us right now, we'll get started here and we'll give it a few minutes and let more people join in. Hopefully everyone having a fantastic Thursday.
how do I open up like where you see everybody?
All right, so if you've got the video right there, if you just click on it, it should expand.
If I click on which video?
Are you in the group? Do you see the video playing?
No. Okay, there we go. View stream on Facebook. I think that's.
And then what you want to do is you want to make sure that Facebook is muted. And you can do that just by going up to the tab up there and just right click and then mute.
Yep, give me 1 second. Huh, strange. When I click on copy streaming link, it just goes to facebook.com.
Which link are you trying to copy? Do you want to share the post or?
Oh wait, I think I see it. I just went through my notifications and I found it.
Okay. Then if you expand it, then you'll be able to see all the comments coming in. Trying to copy? Do you want to share the post or?
Oh wait, I think I see it. I just went through my notifications and I found it.
Okay.
Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna mute it.
Then if you expand it.
Yeah, I muted the. I see what you're saying now. Got it.
New toy, man.
Yeah, new toy. I can't believe I haven't done one of these before, been on one, or even like watch one. To be honest,
you've never done a Facebook Live before, or?
No, dude. I'm like an old man. I feel like being a founder has made me an old man. Like I'm super ahead on some things and then just like super behind on other things. I mean, I don't know, like it's probably a little different for you because the whole thing that you're doing with PitchGround is literally finding new tools. But if you're a founder of a company where you're just building one tool, it gets easy to miss out on like anything from pop culture to like new tools that people are using that don't apply to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's good, man, because yeah, I mean, focusing on what you guys are doing, personally, whatever's working for you specifically is the way to do it.
For sure.
Do you guys have a Facebook group? I don't even think I've looked before.
We don't have a Facebook group. We have a Discord, or is it Discord or Discuss community? It's community.loom.com.
Do you guys have a Facebook group? I don't even think I've looked before.
We don't have a Facebook group. Wow. That just tripped me out again. I just opened up the new tab for the live stream. But yeah, it's community.loom.com, and we just have like an internal board over there where we just have people that are like ambassadors or people that are using Loom to close bigger deals, and they just want to like swap tips and tricks. And then, I mean, I think the majority of the posts are just feature requests. So
very cool. Very cool. So what is that link? It's community?
Yeah, community.loom.com.
I'll make sure I'll put it in the group too, as soon as I can. Oh, you got it? Okay.
Yep.
Very cool. All right, so that's probably good. We could probably go ahead and get started.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Hey, everybody. Hope everyone's having a fantastic Thursday. So thank you very much for joining us. So today we've got a very special guest. We've actually got a co-founder over from Loom, our favorite screen recording software, Vinay. And Vinay, please introduce yourself, man.
Yeah, name's Vinay. I know I looked at the group before. I saw some people are using some other screen recording softwares and are pretty avid users of it. No hard feelings at all. Happy to be here. I'm the technical co-founder. We started Loom out of my apartment in San Mateo like 3 years ago. So it's been a wild journey, and I hope that like through this interview I can either answer some questions that I'm sure everybody might have, or not, and hopefully learn a little myself as well.
Right on. And if anybody has any questions, go ahead. Make sure you put them down here in the comments so we can get to those as soon as we can. So that's amazing, man. So you guys have done an amazing job over that 3-year period. How many users do you guys currently have right now?
We're a little over 1.5 million users.
Wow.
Around the world. So yeah, that's not an active users. That's not in weekly or monthly active users. Unfortunately, I can't share how many monthly and weekly active users. It's in the hundreds of thousands. But we're definitely at a very different scale at this point.
Absolutely awesome. And what would you say was some of the biggest things like to contribute to your guys' growth, do you think?
Yeah, I think that like, well, definitely just at a core. Like at the core, I think the thing that has contributed to our growth for sure has been the team. Like the team is always super important whenever you're building anything, but we have a team like up until 2 months ago we had 5 engineers, and so most people are like surprised that we have so little engineers for how complicated of a product Loom is and how big of a reach and how much scale we do. But I think that you can, like, if you can get away with a really small scrappy team, that's always the best. And we've recently had to scale up because I actually hired way too slowly, which can be a problem apparently, but it's just a lesser of the two evils between like scaling up too fast. But other than that, I think at the core, it's also just that our videos render instantly. And like from the get-go, that was kind of, it was kind of a mistake that we built Loom that way, to be honest. Like we ended up pivoting and bootstrapping off of our own money, me and my 2 co-founders, Joe and Shahid, for like the first 7-8 months of Loom. And we were actually a company called Open Test, where we did user testing. And then we eventually got into video user testing feedback on your webpage. And when we did that, we needed site owners who were going to install some JavaScript snippet that asked their users to give video guided feedback. Okay. We had to show those site owners how the tool might look on their own website. So we had to build a demo, and those people weren't going to wait for a video to upload and process. And so I literally built the technology that made Loom take off, in my opinion, made Loom take off for a demo for non-technical people for a user testing product. And then we repurposed it for the tool when we kind of disbanded that from the user testing side.
Wow. Right on. So how many was there when you guys very first started? I mean, like, what was the thing that like got you guys to actually, put everything together and actually make what Loom is today, as far as like the actual startup of the company?
Yeah, well, when me and my co-founders started at first, we started just because we thought we had a really good distribution of skill set, and we've worked for other people who we thought made bad decisions just over and over again. And we kind of wanted to just start a company that would be successful and build a culture where we thought people working within the company were really happy with where it was going. They thought that it was growing. For Loom specifically, the way that it kind of started up is after that like 6-7 months of pivoting, me and my co-founders ended up having, it was just us three still at that point. So we ended up having like kind of a crisis where we had 2 weeks left of money in our bank accounts. And
Oh, wow.
by that, I mean that like in 2 weeks, we needed to have a job. Like all of our credit cards were maxed out. It's not like, okay, we have 2 weeks and then we can like, we can go and find a job. We needed a job in 2 weeks. And we had kind of pivoted around in this user testing space. And it was hard to get money because we ran into a lot of roadblocks there. And so we had this idea, because the videos rendered instantly, me and my co-founder Joe were like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we just kind of, decoupled this Chrome extension and made it a thing that just makes quick videos? And we thought like, okay, to be honest, we didn't have this grand vision for it. We were just like, hopefully this just funnels some growth back into the user testing side. And when we released it, when we kind of threw this Hail Mary, we started getting a lot of signups, and we launched on Product Hunt at first. We started getting a lot of signups, and there was just kind of a moment where when we started having people reach out to us over intercom and reach out for different issues, different bugs they were running into, we noticed how many different use cases people were using it for. And for me specifically, I had a light bulb moment where I realized that this was going to take over the user testing platform. Basically, this guy sent me a video and there was some corruption in his video, and he's like, can you repair this for me? And I looked at it and it was him just looking at a stock ticker. And then like the stock ticker was going down and he was just screaming into his microphone, like very angrily in Portuguese. And I just had to ask him, and I was like, yo, I know that it's none of my business and you can feel free to not like tell me, but I don't understand Portuguese. What is this video about? And he was like, well, actually, me and my friends, we run a syndicate in Brazil, and we manage over $3 billion worth of assets. And one of my friends just made a very, very bad decision.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of like that, plus a bunch of like different use cases, like even people just like showing their parents how to use something when they had moved from like New Zealand to Australia. Like all of these things kind of led to a moment where we were like, okay, we could go back to the user testing thing, but Loom is kind of taking off. And we noticed that it started taking off, especially with remote and distributed teams growing so fast. We noticed that there were just like these natural trends for Loom taking off. And me and my co-founders were kind of like, oh shit, like this could be like a massive thing. Like we should definitely double down on this thing. And it just felt a lot more exciting than user testing to me personally. And so yeah, that's kind of how Loom came to be. And we were still 3 people at that point. So pretty much everything leading up to building the initial version of the product that actually took off was just me and my co-founders on bootstrap money.
That's amazing, man. That's a great story too. being where you're at then to needing money right away to where you're at now, man. That's crazy. So but yeah, like I was telling you before, I mean, I'm absolutely amazed. I mean, I've used you guys for a couple years now. Like I said, back when you guys were like giving the referral credits out, and I mean, I've used it for a ton of sales, support, just sending a message over to trying to explain something to another team member, showing off products, so forth. So it's been absolutely amazing as far as like, yeah, I mean, it's unlimited for use cases for sure, and it's definitely one of the tools, it's main tools that I use almost on a daily basis. that I use in my toolbox, and it's helped us out amazingly for us. So thank you very much for building it, for sure. So
Sure. And thanks for using us. I mean, there's like I think there's a big difference, and it'll continue to become bigger and bigger between Loom and its competitors. And I mean, like you're mentioning that there are a bunch of use cases. I mean, that's kind of one of the problems with starting a horizontal use case company in the first place, is like, what the hell do I use this thing for? And so when we decided to stay horizontal and stay fairly agnostic, and basically said, okay, we want to be like a utility for the internet. We want to be the way to like communicate in quick videos. If you're a professional of any kind. When we did that, we became an onboarding company. So it's like, it comes with its pros and cons, for sure.
Absolutely. So if you had to, so looking back at that, if you had to do anything different from when you guys very first started, what would you have done different?
Yeah, there are definitely a few things. One is I mean, right now we're building team accounts. And that's something that like just naturally it makes a lot of sense for Loom. Like we have teams of up to like thousands of people using us at very big companies, all the way down to like, just individuals using us. And I think we could have, like, we're growing very fast, but I think we could have been even further along if we had front loaded like the team accounts aspect, because there's just natural network effects that come up out of that. Another thing that I probably would have done early on from like a company mentorship standpoint is find mentors, especially when I started becoming a manager. But that's probably like a whole thing that I'm assuming a lot of people here want to hear about, like Loom and actually like the product building. So I'd say that on the product end, the thing that I would probably change, I wrote a blog post about this, but when we launched Loom Pro, we ended up releasing a ton of features all at once, and we blocked a lot. We blocked a lot of the like scrappy shipping mentality that we used to have, and we're just now recovering from that. And I laid out like a bunch of tooling that anybody who's running, no matter how small your team is, I think it makes a lot of sense to have like a feature flagging system. Like to me, if I could start all over again, I would invest time in building a feature flagging system so I can deliver product updates very quickly.
Okay.
And just turn them on when they need to get deployed. And I'd say that from like a product building standpoint, that's probably one of the top things that I would do differently.
Absolutely amazing. Now, what advice could you give to someone that's just starting out, building their own, SaaS right now, as far as someone that's where you guys are at now? You've already gone through that process, man. You started off in your, like you just said, your apartment, bootstrapped. I mean, needing money within a couple of weeks to where you guys are now, basically with the 1.5 million users across the board. What advice would you, if somebody's just starting off right now and they're like, hey man, we're looking to get it started, what's the best number one, what's the top 3 advice points you could give us for being a startup?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's so like I almost feel it's a hard question to answer, because like the top 3 pieces of advice that I'd give people is completely contextual, like based off of what they want to do too, because not everybody wants to start like a really big company. And also like starting a really big company, I find that a lot of people that go out with that mentality, like a lot of it is luck too. Like you do need to be, you do either need to be relentless and then eventually hit something, or like you need to be lucky and like hit it off on your first, like this is my first company. And honestly, like a lot of it has to do with execution, but a lot of it has to do with luck and market forces. And so it's hard for me to answer that question. The first piece of advice that I'd give anybody is to definitely like build something that's quality and that works really well. Like I hate giving this advice, because it's like, you don't need something to be perfect. It really depends on what you're doing. For something that creates video, like you do want it to be like pretty close to perfect, because if you record something for 20 minutes and then it's lost, that's 20 minutes that you just lost.
Right.
Whereas it's maybe not that applicable if you're building like a messenger. But I'd say the first thing maybe is to build something that is like the design and the user experience and what you're doing. Those have become real moats I'd say that like the user experience of your product has become like almost expected. It really changes the perception of like how people use your tool. And I was actually scrolling through PitchGround, and I won't like shout out anybody, any individual product, but some of the products I'm like looking at it and I'm like, okay, do I believe that as of right now, this product is going to be like a big product? And it's just like purely emotional, but we're like emotional creatures, right? And so for me, like I'm big on design, and some of these tools, I'm like, oh, they're just trying to make money. They're not trying to become really big. They're not trying to like standardize like an interface or an experience or a feel with their brand. They don't care about that stuff. They just really care about the scrappiness. And that's one way to run a company. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that if you want to run a big company, like you should care about design, and you should care about like what people think about your product and what they feel when they use it. And it's like, it's actually priceless. And I think like a lot of people that have like a scrappy mentality, they're like, oh, like that perfect is the enemy of done. And I completely agree with that. I just put in like 16-hour days in the beginning. Like we worked like insane hours. And so that would be like my first piece of advice if somebody wants to build a big company. And by big, it's all relative. Like I'm gonna say, you know, you want to reach at least like, let's just say 30 people. Like that's my definition of big right now. I know that big could actually be like 1,000 people or 10,000 people, depending on who you ask. Second piece of advice I'd say is, you know, work really hard. and that it's not, like these aren't mind-blowing. Like I don't think that I'm like an Elon Musk, you know, like I'm not gonna drop some knowledge here where someone's gonna be like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't think about that. Like my advice is, yeah, my advice is like somebody's putting in like a 40-hour work week, work 80 hours. Like if you don't have something, be hungry. And like kind of a teed off advice to that is if you're hiring people, make sure they're hungry. Like hunger is like so much more important than pedigree. I mean, right now we have like a mix of some of the people that have been the most successful at our company. They're just really hungry. They just want to like have a win under their belt. Right. And I think finding people that have a bit of a chip on their shoulder is a really good thing, as long as they're self-aware, that they have that chip on their shoulder and they're just funneling it into, you know, furthering what you guys are doing. Third piece of advice, I don't know. It's really hard. Like there's just I have so many good pieces of advice. I feel good pieces of advice, but they could be really bad pieces of advice for somebody who's like trying to do something completely different. So I noticed that I think we just have is it Udit? Is that how you pronounce his name, or Udit?
Udit.
Udit. Yeah. I mean, we were on a call before. I think he's the only one in here, but I don't see any comments. But if anybody does hop in at some point, like I'll
there's others in here. Everyone's just kind of watching.
Oh, got it. I don't know why I don't see the other people on the call. I thought I just saw me, you, and Udit, but cool. No worries. I'd say those are the two pieces of advice. Just work really hard and like find hungry people. And if you want to build a big company, like care about design and care about how people feel about your brand. Those would be my biggest pieces of advice for someone going 0 to 1. My advice would be like very different if you're like, you know, somebody wants to scale up a company, and then it's like, well, I can help you from like 10 to 26, but we're at 26 right now, so I can't really give out advice past that. I don't really know. I would just talk on behalf of other people.
And I agree about the design. Design is so important now. I mean, it's like you really got to have that eye candy if you really want to attract people to your platform, without question. That user experience is so important. You know, if it looks good, they'll come. If it doesn't look good, they're not gonna come.
I mean, look at Notion, right? Like, have you used Notion before?
Yep.
So it's like, so Ivan, the CEO, the co-founder, or the founder, one of the co-founders, I'm good friends with him, and it's like just talking to him, it's like the guy cares so much about design, and it almost killed their company. I think there is like a there is like a level of being so meticulous that you're missing opportunities. But it's like, there's Jira out there. Why is Notion such an insanely valuable company right now? Why are they growing so fast? And it's like, it's the design, it's the experience of like using the thing. Like I think that it's like fairly, building a note app is like commoditized. Eventually building like a quick video app like the one that we have will be commoditized. I hope I can power it with APIs, but I think it'll be commoditized as well. So it's like, the way people feel when they use it, the trust they have for your brand, the fact that they think you have like good support, people thinking that you're pricing fairly, and then lead qualifying the people that you really need. Like all of that stuff is really important. I feel like that all goes into the user experience, especially the support part.
Right. So actually, it's funny you mentioned Nuda. He actually has a question. Wants to know, how many SaaS did it take you to hit success with the Loom? So did you guys have any previous software you were working on?
How many, what was it? How many steps?
SaaS? Did you guys have any software companies before? SaaS companies?
Oh, how many companies had we founded before?
Yeah.
No, this is the first one. Okay, so for Shahid, for one of my co-founders, he started a company. Shahid's a little bit of an edge case. He started a company when he was 16. He raised a very decent amount of money. He competed against TaskRabbit back in the day, but then he ended up folding shop. It didn't work out. They didn't execute fast enough, and they were just like pretty inexperienced. I mean, he was 16, and I think his co-founder was like 17. They just didn't have the ability to execute in the way that they needed to. Joe had started a digital media company.
Okay.
But it wasn't in SaaS. It was a lot of contracting. It wasn't like a very scalable business model. They hadn't built something where they could just pour more people in and they'd pay more. And then for myself, like I have started a company in college, but I wouldn't really consider it starting. So really for all of us, this is our real first like huge attempt, minus Shahid, it's kind of his second, but real first when Shahid actually has the ability to execute on something. It's all of our first time at this, which is also a little weird because, I feel like I looked up the statistics behind it. It's like, I think we're like, statistically, it's more likely that I would have been struck by lightning twice in the same spot than like reaching where we are right now off of your first company. That being said, we definitely pivoted before this, like before when we were in the mode of doing user testing, when we were called Open Test. I think we did like 3 major pivots and like 5 small, like overall 5 pivots, including the small ones, over a period of like 5 to 7 months. So we definitely pivoted a lot. We just failed a lot. We failed really, really fast. So we hadn't done any full companies before, but it definitely feels like those were completely separate companies, because they were completely different things. But the hypothesis definitely led up to where we are right now. But there was like quite a bit of luck, like I alluded to before.
You guys have done amazing. So did you just change the branding on that, or did you actually kind of make it separate when you turned it into what you have now?
We ended up, so at first we had it be Open Vid on Open Test, which confused the hell out of people, because they were like, I don't know what, like people would go and install OpenVid from the Chrome store and they'd be like, I don't know what the hell Open Test is. Like, I don't know what this user testing thing is. Why do they want me to like sign up for a wait list? And people like eventually it just got to the point where we're like, okay, we can't surface Open Test anymore. It's actually confusing the OpenVid people, and OpenVid is like growing much faster than Open Test. So we eventually scrapped that. But we stuck with OpenVid for a little bit and Open Test for a little bit. And it was really after like, I think about like 3 to 4 months when we were running OpenVid, and we eventually were like, okay, the Open Test thing isn't working, where it was pretty obvious. We were like, the open part doesn't really make sense. It made sense when it was Open Test, but like, do we really want to be called OpenVid right now? And we rebranded to Loom. We actually worked with a guy named Ty Wilkins, who did a lot of the branding stuff, branding work for like GitLab. He did the logo for Robinhood Gold and all the design for that, and
Wow.
he's friends with Shahid, and so we were lucky enough to be able to get to work with him. And yeah, we were just exploring with him, and we landed on Loom, which is a whole nother story. But essentially, Loom is like supposed to be short for, it's a misspelling, but it's also supposed to be short for superluminal communication, which is like communication faster than the speed of light. It's also, Loom is also a machine that weaves fabric together, and we want to be like a backbone, a utility of the internet. So we want to weave conversations together. We want to live like where you're talking. We don't want to force people onto our platform if they don't need to. We want to like seamlessly integrate with everything over the internet.
That's awesome. That was gonna be my next question, as far as like why Loom? Like where'd that come from? So now you guys started off, but you started off with, what was it? Use Loom? Was it Use Loom? Get Loom? Use Loom. Use Loom.
Use
right?
Loom, yeah.
And then you acquired, now did you have loom.com, or did you acquire that later?
We acquired that later for sure.
Should I even ask how much you guys paid for that domain?
A lot less than you would think, but still a lot. So we were gonna, long story short, we thought this was gonna go through really smoothly. Loom was actually a company that got acquired by Dropbox, and then Dropbox owned the loom.com domain. And so through a series of us trying to work through our network, and this was mostly Shahid and Joe, it wasn't myself, but through a series of lots and lots of conversations of trying to get in front of the right people at Dropbox, we eventually got in front of the right guy. And he was like, yes, we will sell you loom.com. And the sticker price was like $65,000. He was like, we'll sell you loom.com for $65,000. No worries, it's in the bag. And then another company came along called, and I forgot what they're called now, but they had withloom.com. That was their thing, with Loom. And the guy there, Todd Berman, who, he has like a stacked background. He used to be like the VP of engineering at GitHub, and like has this crazy background. He came in and was like, hey, like we are also Loom, and we also own Loom Inc., Loom Incorporated. And basically, we're really early on. We know you guys have a lot more users. We are willing to rebrand and move away from Loom, but it's going to cost us on the design side, and it's going to cost us on the legal side, because he was like, I'm assuming we're not going to want Loom Inc. anymore. And so we struck up a deal where we paid him off, and the payment covered his redesign.
Nice.
Covered the legal fees for changing their name. Wow. In conjunction, we got him to back off of the deal of bidding on the domain, because he was willing to go up to a number that was way higher than what we were willing to go up to. And we got loom.com, and we got Loom Inc. So now we are like officially Loom. And so nice. Overall, it was between $100,000 and $200,000. I don't know if I'm allowed to give out the exact number, but it was, I've heard that's good for a 4-letter domain. I don't really know. All of it kind of breaks my heart.
That's amazing, man. That's absolutely amazing. So let's see. So here's a question. What was your growth process from growing 10,000 to 100,000 user base, which is one of the most difficult phase?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's like a really good question too. That is true. Like around like 10, 20, once you start hitting those orders of magnitude, it's like once you hit the 10,000, it's like, okay, like you have like linear growth. And actually at each phase, you hit this new plateau, and then you try to figure out, what the hell do I do to get to the next level of growth? And there are some like levers that will continue to increase like your viral coefficient. And so I'll give like a little bit of background for, just in case there are people on the call. I know that PitchGround has like a pretty tech savvy user base, but the difference between network effects and like the virality of your product, we have an inherently viral product. And so what that means is that I create a Loom, I send it to somebody, that person thinks about ways they can create looms and how it might help them, and then they sign up. So because our product is a communication product, it's inherently viral. It doesn't inherently have network effects though. And what I mean by that is that if you sign up for Loom, I might get some benefits, but I don't inherently have a better experience on Loom for each new person I know that uses it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like with Facebook, each new friend or connection you have, with LinkedIn, each new connection you have a better experience. And that's a real network effect. And there's a lot of lock in there. And there's also a lot of growth that comes with that.
Right.
How Loom is built right now is a very individualistic experience. You have your videos, your video page, you send a video out to somebody, and that's how it works. We do have inherent network effects in how the tool is used within organizations and how the tool is used as an interface between like contracting organizations, agencies, stuff like that. The reason I explain this is because we have an inherently viral product. We don't inherently have network effects, but we're building our platform to house some of the network effects that we're seeing. The way that it relates to growing from 10,000 to 100,000 users is that a lot of people get distracted by virality versus network effects. Like, you should just forget all of that stuff. The most important thing is you figure out your activation, your activation, right? And what your activation is, it's different for every platform. Like if you're a Facebook and you inherently have network effects, what they found is that as long as you have at least 7 people, 7 connections, the propensity for you to retain, I think it was like a 30x propensity for you to retain, which is like insane. Usually your activation isn't that sticky.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, what we found is that somebody creates a video, they share it, and they get a view on that video. And we actually found that later on that it's like they create a video, they share it, and they get at least 2 views, because we realized later on that like the first video tends to be like a test video that people throw away. So in general, our activation metric is somebody shares a video, they get a view on it, so they have delivered some value, right? They've gotten some value out of our platform. If somebody goes through those steps within the first 7 days, they have about 6 to 7x their likelihood to retain on our platform long term. And so that's like a big point that we want to get people to as fast as possible. And so what our team did at the time when we were going from like the tens of thousands to the hundreds of thousands is we onboarded everybody to the same language of growth. We all got on the same page as to what activation was. We all got on the same page as to like what our viral coefficient was. And that was like step number 1, is making sure everybody on the team can talk about growth in the same way. That is like insanely important. And it's something that a lot of teams don't get right. They're like, okay, like I have a team of 6 people. Why does my engineer need to know what like a viral coefficient is? Like they need to know. And so the reason why is because you can intelligently have these conversations and pull from the brain power of everybody on your team. The second thing that's really important for us is we decided to dedicate time to saying we are going to hit X% activation by the end of the quarter, and we're going to do anything it takes to get there. Nice. And so we built in like A/B testing tools. We started playing around with like referral programs. I know previously you had mentioned that you had referred some people, so you probably got some credits from back then. We didn't even have a paid offering back then, so like there was nothing people were getting. They were just like, I'm happy to get like credits. Yeah. And so there are people on our platform right now who are probably going to have free pro Loom for like years because they just referred so many people back then. And like we were happy to do that because it's led to so much growth for us. The referral program is something we definitely we tweaked. We built it in-house because all the third-party referral tools suck. I mean, like I looked at all of them and I was just like, man, this is horrible. Like you have to build into the way they built in things. It felt clunky. What we ended up doing is we just ended up setting a cookie when somebody who wasn't signed up viewed a video, and anytime they signed up later, whoever's last video they viewed, we counted that person as the referral. So we had implicit video referrals, and then we had explicit user link referrals later on. And so that was definitely one growth tactic. Another one was, surfacing, like basically reducing any friction there was to creating a video and sending it to somebody. So later on, we would put in like tooltips to be like, hey, you can share your video. Did you know you could share your video? And we would look at like how that would affect activation rate. We would do things like in the cam bubble, surface little tips that was like, hey, like you're looking great today. Like, don't worry, don't turn off your camera. Like people will view your videos a lot more if they can see your face in them. That had like a noticeable impact on our activation. And every time we drive up our activation, we'd like get, more noticeably more and more people signing up every single day. And so our journey was very different than probably most people's journeys, because we essentially are like a tool that kind of sits between the consumption pattern of Snapchat minus the teenagers and like naked pictures and stuff. So it's like all for professional usage. So it's like our journey is probably going to be very different from most people's. But I think like the most important thing is like onboard your team to the same language of growth. Make sure everybody agrees to a goal, the most important goal, and it really should be your activation metric. It should be whatever like series of steps someone needs to go through in order to retain at a curve that everybody thinks is like is a good enough standard. And that could vary from person to person. In SaaS, it's usually pretty clearly defined. For tools like ours, where it's like communication meets workplace, the activation, the activation percentage you want to be at is around 30 to 40%. At 40%, you're looking at like the Notions of the world, where it's more like high touch point. At 30%, it's more on like the Evernote side, where it's like you're just doing like sort of stale data. And I won't talk about Evernote because Evernote's not doing so well. We tried to hit that level of activation for like the percentage of people that signed up month over month.
Got it. That's amazing. That's amazing. What here I have another question for you. It is, which has been your best channel for growth as of now?
So early on, it was Product Hunt. Early on, it was Product Hunt. Over time, we've had our videos shared in lots of Facebook groups. Like that's been a huge driver for us. But our biggest channel for growth has always been word of mouth. Yeah, that's always, because we're a viral tool, like it's been word of mouth, which I'm assuming is a pretty dissatisfying answer for whoever asked it.
Not at all, man. Not at all.
Yeah.
When you first launched, though, I got quite like how many new subscribers did you guys get like right away?
On Product Hunt, when we first launched, I think we got like 1,000 people within the first like 48 hours or something, and then it kind of teetered off, But we launched on Product Hunt like over and over again, like so much. And they were all like, I have like a bunch of tips on how to launch on Product Hunt. I have an article out there of how to get to 10,000 users on Product Hunt. Don't look at that. That's just marketing bullshit. Like the way that you do it is you get somebody who's well known to hunt your thing. It's not a huge deal if they're well known, but it helps a little bit. And then around like 12 a.m., get everybody on your team to stay up and take shifts. Like have like half of your team stay up around like 12 a.m., ping every single one of your Facebook friends and just like shamelessly get everybody to upvote, and then go to sleep. And then around like, because Product Hunt is like heavily based in the US, around like 6 a.m. EST. So for 6 to 8 a.m. EST. So on the West Coast for us here in California, that was like 3 to 5 a.m. You'd get another wave of people. And when you go in there, make sure there's always someone like actively commenting, and also make sure that like support is fully staffed up. Like the day that you launch on Product Hunt, dedicate all of your resources to support. Like don't worry about building new features. It's not important. Like the most important thing is that those people refer other people, and they will refer other people if they have like really speedy support. So that would be the other thing, is that just make sure everybody's on support. Make sure you have those 2 shifts between the 2 different times when you launch around 12 a.m. Whatever, I guess like now that I think about that, that's like 12 a.m., whatever Product Hunt's time is, which is Pacific because they're based out of California.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think they start at 12:01, don't they? Is it like PST?
Yeah, PST. So, make sure that you have a bunch of people upvote you to that. It's really important before you go to sleep. Make sure you're number 1. Don't be number 2, be number 1. It's like really, really important. There's a huge difference. And then and then around the time when East Coast people come up, have like the next shift of people relentlessly ping their friends, and you'll be able to get up there as long as you created like a good product. Again, this is all like hinging off of the fact that you care about design. It resonates with people. It's solving like a real problem, and none of that's guaranteed. I mean, if that was guaranteed, then everybody would be a billionaire. So I think that product hunt early on, Facebook groups have definitely helped us. Word of mouth mostly. It's going to be different for every product. I think it's going to be different for every product. And it comes down to knowing like, where does your early user cohort live? Like, I don't think anybody should heavily rely on one channel or another, because channel market fit is like a real thing. And also channels like saturate over time. Like product hunt is not nearly as effective as it used to be, from what I've heard from a lot of people. So.
Amazing. Yeah, then you never know what's going to launch on the same day you do as well. So hopefully it's not something that's going to overtake all your votes and your comments and stuff too, your upvotes.
Right.
Very cool. So Travis says, when is custom sections browser windows on Windows coming?
Custom sections browser windows on Windows. Oh, I'm assuming Travis means like application selection.
I assume so. Is that correct, Travis?
Am I allowed to talk to Travis? I don't know.
Yeah, you say so.
I'm trying to look at where the comments actually are.
But they're actually in the group. So if you're on the Facebook, you see where the live video is at.
Yeah.
If you actually click on the video, it's going to expand into a window, and then you'll be able to see the comments and everything there.
I see them. It just says that I'll refresh the page. Maybe I'm just behind. Then I'll mute it right away. Okay, I think I see some.
Uda just tagged you as well.
All right, sweet. Yeah, sorry y'all. Okay, so Travis said, yeah, that's coming soon. We are working on. So I'll give a little bit of background there, Travis. So basically for Mac, we have a binary layer, like a native layer on our Mac app that we don't have on our Windows app, and we shipped with that from the get-go because we were just extremely understaffed. And I have a blog post on like how not to ship product, which I was explaining earlier on. So I fully apologize for Windows not being up to snuff right now, but we have an entire engineer just dedicated to getting Windows completely feature parity with Mac. And in many ways, it's actually going to perform better than our Mac app, just because of the APIs that Windows offers us. But included in that will be internal audio. So being able to record the internal audio of the specific application, specific areas of your screen, just like the Mac app, custom cropping of the different areas of your screen, just like the Mac app. And actually we will build in functionality so that it works like the Chrome extension, because on the Mac app right now, if you select a specific window, it actually just does a cropped recording of where the window is. But if you move the window at all, like it'll capture whatever else gets moved in there. With Windows, it'll be like true, like just select the application, record it. You could be on another screen and it'll work.
Okay.
So I'd say, to give you a timeline, like I hate giving timelines, but I would say like the guy working on it's a really good engineer. I'd say probably like a month to a month and a half.
Very cool.
And Travis, if I want to record a specific window instead of my full desktop. Yep, that's exactly it. You'll get that. Travis, if you want to message me on Facebook with the email that you signed up for on Loom, I'll actually include you in the alpha cohort, the early alpha cohort for that, and I'll get you access to that so that you can try it out and test it. You won't have to install anything new. Like all of that tooling is built into all of our apps. So if you just get me your email, I can just turn it on for you.
Awesome. That's amazing. Yeah. Udit, when is the API coming out?
That's a good question. I really have no idea. That's going to be further along, and it's a huge unknown. We're playing around with some stuff right now, but that's like an unknown. And I have like a lot of personal, let's just say never, but it's not going to be never, but it's not going to be never.
Not too soon. Not too soon. I I already know what's going through. Udit's got wheels turning in his head right now. I can already see it. I already see the smoke popping out of his ears right this second. He's got some ideas coming out.
Let me put it this way. We have a way, we are currently testing internally with our team. We have a way where you can reply to videos by recording a video straight from your browser without installing anything. So we have that working internally on the team.
Oh man, I don't even know if I can ask this. You can probably read it. Udit, can we have around 10 to 20 pro accounts for all the active users today on the live session?
No, I'm sorry.
Nah, you're out of luck, man.
I'm sorry. I guess I'll answer that a little bit more. Like the LTD, either LTD or like free pro accounts. The way I look at it is I hope that I can provide something where, you know, the free tier and the pro tier makes sense to you. I have talked to Aaron and Udit about you know, like what goes into an LTD, because I never like to write off things that I don't understand fully, and I obviously still don't understand it fully. But as of right now, I'm in a place where like the outlook that I have for Loom is probably not the same as a lot of our competitors. I think a lot of our competitors, they already have like established companies and they're trying to increase like their bottom line. For me, I'm like really trying to make something that is going to stick and is going to be kind of like the standard for creating these videos. And something that's really important to me right now is like your elasticity to actually pay. Like, what's your actual demand? And it's tough for me to know that on an LTD. Like, I could correlate it to LTV and be like, this is your lifetime value as a user, but I have no idea. We've had a paid account for like 3 months. So for now, we're not offering LTDs. We're not giving out free pro accounts. That being said, I would love to like help people out, like who want to, you know, test new features, like no charge. I like helping people out who are just like kind of involved and want to give feedback with stuff like that. But in general, I don't give things away for free. I try to figure out what's a price point that works for you. And if it doesn't work, then I mean, that's my loss. I mean, hopefully it doesn't become so much my loss that it bankrupts my company.
And guys, they got a free account. I mean, you can't get any better than that. I mean, yes, they do have a pro account, badass. Make sure that if you like the free one, upgrade to the pro. But if you haven't used Loom, you're missing out big time. No question about it. Make sure you go to, well, I guess it's loom.com now. So make sure you go to loom.com and at least grab the Chrome extension. You'll be absolutely amazed what you can do with the videos and share them. So, Udit. Oh, go ahead, sir.
I was just saying, thanks for the plug. I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. We still got to get you have time for your 90-second pitch. This is PitchGround after all. So every founder has a 90 seconds to do a pitch. So Udit's got a question. Well, what's been your biggest challenge so far turning free to pro tier users so far?
Free to pro tier users so far, biggest challenge.
It's a great question, actually.
It is a good question. I think that like it's the same challenge that we have as a company. It's like our biggest challenge. I think the biggest thing standing in the way of where we are now, and where we need to be like $100 million company. Like not $1 billion company, but like $100 million company is probably answering the question of like, what do I use Loom for? Like me personally, I'm like just a random person that does marketing at a company that's not very tech forward in the middle of nowhere, America. You know, I didn't say like India or Brazil or anything, because actually those countries are very tech forward, like compared to the US right now, which is, I mean, that is where we are, is like a global populace. But you know, I'm somebody who's just trying to get their job done. Like, why the hell would I use Loom? Like, I'm using text right now. I'm writing things up. Like, when is it actually useful for me? I think that's the biggest thing that gets in the way of us like just getting top of the line growth. In terms of upgrading, like if we can't answer that question really well for most people, then we're just not going to upgrade. So for me, like the upgrade path is not the biggest question. For me, like the usage and retention path is the biggest question, which I know is like a non-answer to your question, Udit, but to me, like I like to break things down into first principles. And right now the underlying first principle is onboarding new users. It's actually not like trying to upgrade them and like upsell them as much as possible. It's like, can I give something away that feels reasonable? And do you even get to the point where you're like, wow, this is such a good deal, I want to pay for it? To me, that's like the big thing. And I know that's the biggest problem for our competitors too, because I've gone to different companies that use our competitors and have just straight up like asked people how it's going. And the biggest thing is that like they're building tools that are for very specific use cases. We're building a tool that hopefully will solve any use case where you need to create quick video content.
Right. Any strategies that you are implementing to avoid massive monthly churn?
Massive monthly. So say that one more time.
What strategies do you guys have? Any strategies in play you guys are using that you're implementing to avoid massive monthly churn, to keep people from churning?
No, our churn is like actually really, really good. But again, like that's kind of, it's I'm really hesitant to say that because it's only been like 3 months that we've been charging people, like for the entirety of the company, right? So for me to say our churn is really good is like a little disingenuous, because it hasn't been that long. Like I can't give out specific churn numbers because it's just like it's not something that I'm like fiduciary responsibility. I legally can't, like I'm on the board. So but like I can tell you that the biggest thing that we're going to be doing right now to reduce churn, but not really for the purpose of reducing churn, in order to do like a whole bunch of other things, is build team accounts into our product. Like literally just a shared repository of videos for teams of users who use Loom right now, whether they're going to use it for free or pay for it, whatever, just giving them like a shared repository to see their content. Like to me, that's probably going to make, I mean, just intuitively, that's going to make the biggest difference for us right now.
Amazing. Yeah, I can't wait for that. That'll be nice for the team account.
Absolutely. By the way, Travis, you're not going crazy. Yeah, you're not going crazy.
All right, man. So we've been on here for a while. So are you ready for your 90 seconds to pitch Loom to the PitchGround community, everyone that's watching and everyone that will be watching?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I'm ready.
You ready, man? All right. So you got it. 90 seconds. It's yours.
Cool. So Loom is a tool that allows you to record your screen, your front-facing camera on a little camera bubble, and narrate a video all at once. The poll is that as soon as you're done recording, no matter how long your recording is, you have an instantly shareable link where the video is already hosted for you. You're able to overlay like a custom CTA, custom brand your player, and send it out to anybody that you need to send it out to. So the idea is asynchronous, quick video communication. Right now, Loom is trying to tackle a whole bunch of use cases. My goal is to make Loom a standard way that you get work done and communicate with other people in a world that's rapidly globalizing.
Amazing. Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and visit with us here at PitchGround and to share with everybody the love of Loom and your guys' story and journey to where you are today. It's absolutely amazing.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me here. And I feel like a lot of people are like patting me on the back. Any problems you have with Loom as a tool or a platform, like anything, I would love to hear it. I don't take things personally. So please like comment below, like unleash the Kraken on me. I don't really mind. I'd rather hear it and know that it's a problem than like think that everything's okay. So, feel free to message me too, and I'll look at all messages. It might take me a little bit to get to it, but I'm definitely going to look at all messages. And we pipe all feedback into a single tool for our company, so it's all heard and prioritized.
And again, guys, if you haven't tried Loom out, it's amazing. Their support is amazing. It's by far one of the best supports I've seen ever since like I said, I've been using it for a couple of years now myself. And your guys' support is absolutely amazing. I mean, the way that you guys reached everybody on there since you guys have started, since I've been using it at least. So they're very, very easily to communicate with, I guess is what I'm trying to say there. So again, if you haven't tried it out, go to loom.com right now. Guys, it's free. It's free. Check it out. You'll be absolutely blown away and amazed what you can do with it. If you're a business, you'll be amazed at the use cases that you'll find that use for it. I personally, I've gotten sales using Loom. I've helped out with support for clients using Loom, just team communication. It's an amazing app. And thank you guys for building it. And thank you again for being here with us.
Thank you, Aaron.
All right. That's
Thanks
it,
to
guys.
everybody who chimed in. I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. If you guys have any questions, make sure you put them down here in the comments. And I'm sure Vinay's in the community. He's part of the family. So he'll see them and he'll answer them as much as he possibly can. And other than that, everybody have a fantastic Thursday. Thank you again for joining us. And we'll see you guys in the group.
All right. See y'all.